Hey there. So, Sneako, famous, well-known streamer, video content creator, Muslim, used to be Christian, seems like he had a potential to be decent enough. He recently tweeted, "Aliens are fake, demons are real. Obama is almost certainly connected to Epstein, so they put out wacky conspiracy slop to redirect and turn you crazy." What I find odd or interesting or weird about this tweet, what do you call an X post? Just an X post? It doesn't ring as much. Doesn't matter. Let's break this down phrase by phrase. Aliens are fake. Okay. The word aliens is complicated because there's definitely something that's interacting with us that we don't know about. That's about as far as it is. To the average person, obviously some people with higher up credentials might know more, but as far as we know, we see things that we don't understand. We call it aliens. We know that it's there, we just don't know what it is, so we find a word to describe that. Demons are real is what he says after aliens are fake. The thing is, in the way that we see these things that we don't understand and we call them aliens, that's what you're doing with demons. So aliens, demons, is there any difference if they have an intention or not? Because if the alien was good, would it be an angel per se? I don't know. But I just find it very odd, and I also find it strange that the people that are calling everything so demonic and evil are the only ones that are kind of fighting this spiritual battle and applying these labels to everything. And oftentimes that takes away the credit where credit's due. Humans are committing evil acts. So when you blame it on something spiritual, even though that could be true, right, in some sort of metaphorical or, I don't know, metaphysical way. Regardless, what we do know is that there is something there that we don't understand. But to immediately identify it as something specific rather than using something broad like aliens is different. And I'll explain why. Clearly, when he's talking about demons, there's a lot of ideological weight that is attached to that if that were to be specifically true, right? It would mean a lot of other things are real. The problem is that within the context of these religions that they're speaking about, there's a lot of holes in the factuality and the historicity of these things in the first place, which is why you grow out of these strict, fundamental, uniform kind of ideas, these to objectify subjective stories in reality over history. You end up taking away a lot of meaning that can come from that, and you end up putting a tight grip on a construct, and you don't allow for human growth. At a time when we needed things to understand what we're going through, and we don't have the tools to experiment more, to test reality, to see what is objectively true and what objectively isn't, we find these ways to compartmentalize our understanding of reality. And that's awesome. But what's even more awesome and more beautiful is taking the next step as the human race and finding ways to discover more about our reality, because the more we discover, it genuinely does help people. It helps the environment, it helps the animals around us, it helps everything. So I feel that when you immediately draw these spiritual conclusions, in fact, you're taking away from the real problem, and you're taking away the possibility of a solution for the problem. It also feels unsettling that the same people that are hyper spiritual facing, right, they put on this big spiritual persona, are openly, simultaneously living in these scenarios, and not just living in them, participating in these lifestyles that completely go against the ideologies and the strict rules that they themselves try to convey vocally, but don't practice physically. You see where I'm saying there's a contradiction there? There's always some way to justify it, but the reality is, to me, is that if you're just blatantly continuing to involve yourself in these lifestyles while simultaneously judging other people for doing the same things that you're doing, or less bad, there's a clear contradiction there. Next, Obama is almost certainly connected to Epstein, so they put out wacky conspiracy slop to redirect and turn you crazy. I find this also quite funny and ironic, considering that the beginning of this tweet in itself is taking away from the possibility of learning more, of exploring more, by completely eliminating the idea or the concept that aliens are fake, not recognizing that alien is a term used as a placement to describe things that we don't quite understand, not necessarily connected to any specific overarching ideology that they're also simultaneously trying to convince you of. See why there's a difference there. Additionally, the demon statement is doing the exact same thing that he's accusing them of doing. When you start saying demons and all this stuff, you take away the reality of the situation, that it was these people. And then it causes people to stop understanding that with this power obviously comes a lot of harm, and especially because it's vastly unregulated. There has to be some consequences to these people's actions, and just because in their brains, the followers of these people, they've done all of this awesome stuff for society, that doesn't matter. You have to face the same consequences as a normal person, or else we're going to keep fostering and facilitating an environment where these people with more power than other people are able to circumnavigate the consequences of normal reality. And it's only getting worse, especially considering they're about to turn themselves into transhumanistic robots that can live forever. Bio-robots? I don't know what it's called, but Peter Thiel is trying to create, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. I'm not going to go into this. Essentially, though, the other thing that I feel is important to mention is that this interview that Obama did with Brian Tyler Cohen, they talk about a lot of other stuff. This was one statement within the interview that people decided to clip, but there's a lot of other clips that people have spread out, taken out of context to benefit or go against what they believe. It happens. But if you want to be somebody who has influence and presents a nuanced perspective of these things, maybe actually participate with the information and understand the context, or do some sort of work to pull this information apart rather than just making quick statements like this that are in fact doing the thing that you're accusing them of doing, which is taking away the attention from the real problems. That's it. That's all I wanted to say today. So that's my first little thing. And this is Help Me, I'm Screaming. So watch more. If you come here, this is what you're going to get. I probably won't show videos. I probably won't have some crazy editing. I just want to speak my mind from the mind. Okay? I think you get it. That's it. Goodbye.